Receiving down payment assistance from CHAFA allowed us to expand our options for what kind of houses we were looking at.
CHAFA is Colorado's trusted partner for homeownership. Visit chfainfo.com/yourhome. CHAFA is an equal housing lender.
The Pueblo Star Journal presents Bree on a Budget. Bree on a Budget is a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast. This episode with guest Melissa Maestas, Taking the Leap and Creating a Career in Vintage, was produced and narrated by Bree Papin.
Good afternoon, Pueblo, and welcome to the April edition of Bree on a Budget. I'm Bree Papin, and I have a great show planned today. I am very excited to have my guest in the studio today. She is a very good friend of mine. She has been for maybe 12 years or so, and we met in the vintage world, which was my previous life. And it's kind of my side life still.
It's still your life.
And we just kind of hit it off right away. We have kind of kindred spirits with each other. We have a love and nostalgia, a love of the old, a love and appreciation of things that are old and well made. And we have been kept in touch, through different things, through families. And I just love this person. She's just a sweetheart. And aside from being kind of my thrifting cohort and my vintage bestie, exactly. My friend Melissa Maestas. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Bree.
I'm excited to have a chat with you today about all the things. What we have been talking about in Bree on a Budget is maybe since the beginning of end of last year, early this year, is how to really tap into your local resources, how to understand what is out there for you in terms of resources, both monetary resources for food accessibility, how to make ends meet if you are on a fixed income, if your household is on a fixed income, if you have to get access to healthcare. All the different things that are changing in our government right now and locally, nationally, all the things that people have to rely on in terms of their local government. And we've been really talking about sustainability, how to make the most of secondhand, how to become a good thrifter, how to find things and find resources, how to access all of those things, creating accessibility. Right. And so that's really all come to the pinpoint of today's show, which is learning how to create a revenue stream, a monetary stream from the things that you already have, that you want to sell online, that you have in your home, that you haven't paid any money for, that you are looking to spring clean out of your home because it's getting to be that time. It is officially spring. And a lot of people do this massive, let's get rid of, or let's refresh, or we don't need this, or this broken thing has been sitting in the corner of our home. We really need to donate it. But there are things that in that donate pile that are valuable maybe. And so you should be able to create income from that or create a money stream from that. And Melissa she is the example, 180 degree example of that, in that she has decided to go full force and create her love of thrifting and her beautiful collection, her highly curated collection, and go online and create a business from that. And so, Melissa, tell me a little bit about, and so this show is about taking that leap, learning how to sell, understanding your resources, understanding the platforms, and really understanding that it is not hard. There are so many things that are out there to help you do this that it's easy 1, 2, 3. And even if you don't own a computer, if you have a phone, you can find a way to get online anyway.
Absolutely.
And so, Melissa, I would love for you to share with us kind of that moment when you decided to do this and kind of where it came from in terms of your business.
Yeah, great. So, I've been thrifting my whole life. I think
Yeah.
I grew up in a thrifting household where, my mom loved going to the segundas, the secondhand stores,
Uh-huh.
and, my dad loved going to yard sales and things like that.
Mhm.
So it's just something that, you learned how to hunt for the treasures,
Right. It's become rote in your
and
life
you
in your life.
develop
Yeah.
an eye for, some really nice things that
Yeah.
others may, just look over.
Sure.
But, I've spent the last, 5, 6 years in the corporate world and just came to a point where I wasn't very happy. I had a lot of anxiety going to work and, I think it was, leading to depression and all kinds of health issues.
Right.
And when I finally decided, I've got to learn how to protect my peace,
Mhm.
um, I decided to step away from that. But it was a very hard decision for me because I was, I had a six-figure income, so to go from a six-figure income with benefits and insurance
Mhm.
was a little scary,
Yeah.
you know.
That's a very scary step, and I think that's why people persevere in
Mhm.
a job that they may not be happy in, and as you've seen, it affects you mentally and
Yeah.
physically, and it can be draining, and it's doing that for a number of years, it just breaks you down.
Yeah.
Breaks you
And,
down.
I just turned 50 this year.
You
So
would never know it. You would never know it. Melissa is a beautiful, sweet lady, and she just resonates, positivity and all kinds of you're an awesome person,
thank
and
you.
she doesn't look 50, folks, let me just tell you.
And, when I turned that corner of 50, I said, the life has to be better than this. You just have to realize the importance of the small things,
Mhm.
You can hoard a ton of money, but you can't take it with you, right?
Of
When you
course.
pass
Of
away.
course not.
So you might as well enjoy your life, And so when I decided to take that leap, I thought to myself, I still need to have a stream of income, but what do I want to do? What's going to make me happy? What am I passionate about? What am I good at?
What are you good at?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. What is she good at?
And, I have a love for vintage women's fashion. I always have. And at one point in time, many years ago, I had a small little Etsy shop. It was a side gig. It was just kind of like a side hustle that I did,
It was your hobby.
it was more of a hobby. Exactly. But I learned how to do it, and the value of things in the online market. And so now, fast forward to today, where we have all this access to AI, we have
Mhm.
access to, so many free things online, Canva,
Right.
and, all these different platforms that you can use.
It's unbelievable how
It's,
many of them are no charge or very minimal charge,
yeah,
and you don't realize how many there are out there until you start trying to go look for one because, "Oh, I wanna make a flyer," or, "I wanna do this," and it's like, "Oh, this is completely free,
yeah,
and I can download it and use it online," and it's like it's amazing, and it just takes that one moment
yeah.
when you're looking for
Yeah,
something.
I mean, it makes things so much easier. Prior to me coming to today, I sat at Solar Roast and, I was on Canva creating a flyer for, my next event.
Wow.
And, it was just super easy. Something that would have probably taken me a few weeks to do in the past took
Right.
me, less than an hour
Yeah.
today just because of the access, just on your telephone. You
Yeah.
don't even need a laptop or anything to
Exactly,
do that.
exactly, on your
Yeah.
phone. Like,
Mhm.
that's what I was saying, you don't necessarily need a
Yeah.
laptop or a computer.
Yeah.
You can do everything on your phone. So, once you decided to you're like, "Okay, I'm stepping away from this job because I realize I need to make a change." What were the steps or what was next in terms of like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this. I have this." You already had a collection of things in your possession.
Yeah. So I've eh, shamefully admit that, I my collection has I've grown really emotionally attached to a lot of it. You have these gorgeous, beautiful, you know, vintage clothing from the 1930s, 1940s, pristine condition, and it's just so hard
Which are harder to find and don't exist anymore.
Right, right. And you have that in your collection, and you learn that this needs to go to a good home to where someone really loves and appreciates this stuff. They're not going to turn it into a Halloween costume.
Yeah, right.
You
Right.
know. So I think for me, when I sat down and I looked at the things I already had and just how easy it is to source those things, I thought, okay, well, now let me reinvent myself. How do I want to reinvent myself? And that's when I created my brand, because in the past I had different, shop names. I had, Mon Cherie, Vintage Lingerie. That's how I started. And then it turned to Time Capsule Vintage Fashion on Etsy. And then I said, okay, well, now, let's reinvent myself. Let's start with something new. My name is Melissa, which means honeybee. So I have a love for honeybees, all
I
things
don't
honeybees.
know why I didn't even know that. That's oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I decided to name my shop Honey House Vintage.
Honey Haus.
H-A-U-S,
H-A-U-S.
the
All right.
German version.
All right.
And the reason why I did that is because I do want it to feel very exclusive. I don't want it to feel like a thrift shop. It is, an online curated boutique of, just really quality items,
Right. Which
so-
reflects your refined taste in term that you've developed over a number of years. And I think we can both agree that when we started our love of vintage or thrifting, it was kind of like everything.
Mhm.
And then as the years progress, your taste changes.
Yeah.
And you understand what's good, what's bad. You've seen so much and you know, you like this brand or that brand or this brand, but across the board, the craftsmanship of items really also plays a big part in terms of what you decide you like and don't like. So definitely that refined taste that's developed over a period of time, and it's very curated, as you were saying.
And the thing about vintage clothing is they don't make clothing like that anymore.
Absolutely.
Anymore. Girls are shopping on Shein. It's cheap. It's fast fashion.
Mhm.
You wash it a couple times and
And it's dead.
And it's dead. It's stretched out, or
Yeah.
and I have things that are over 100 years old, and they're excellent pieces.
Yeah.
Very very little flaws.
Right.
So the quality of materials used, the craftsmanship, you know, the stitching, all of
Mhm.
those things, really just made vintage fashion
Right.
so much more sustainable.
Made by hand,
Made
right?
by hand,
Yeah.
yeah. And, I think that one thing that I really try to instill in my children is we have to look forward to future generations. We have to, really think about how we're going to protect our future generations. And when we are, reducing, reusing, recycling,
Uh-huh.
you really are doing something better for Mother Earth. But why not at the same time make some money off of that?
Of course. Yeah.
Why not, create a business out of it?
Mhm.
People do it all the time. Why can't I do it?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
easy. So, when I reinvented myself, I had to sit down and think, okay, well, what platforms do I want to use? And
There are so many
course.
more than there were
Yeah.
at eBay and Etsy. Like 20 years ago,
Mhm.
Etsy was just kind of coming to the forefront to, as an accompaniment to eBay. And so many of us were familiar with eBay. Gosh, I don't even know how long eBay has been online. Has it been like 35 years or something?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But I started using Etsy when it first came out like 20 plus years ago. And I had a shop on Etsy as well. But there are so many new ways to sell online that really are reflective of what you want to sell online. So if you are in the vintage community, there are certain ones that really are geared towards the vintage community or vintage clothing. So when you did that next step in terms of finding your place, what were the things that you were thinking about in terms of that?
So, I have done Etsy before. I've
Mhm.
done eBay. With those platforms, they used to be Well, one thing that I really liked about Etsy was that it was geared towards either handmade or vintage.
Right.
And
It's kind of
now
surpassed that now. It's very convoluted now.
it's very convoluted. And so you don't really find a lot of authentic vintage anymore on Etsy, you
Mhm.
know. So there's other platforms, Depop, you know, the teenagers know about Depop. My
Right.
son uses that.
Mhm. Same.
Poshmark,
Yeah.
you know, things like that.
Poshmark,
They're
Depop.
more great for like Y2K
Yeah.
type of clothing or
Right.
things like that.
Mhm.
You know, and I do use some of those. I think, you know, one of the great things is about being your own business is you don't have to be committed to just one platform.
Right.
So I found the platform Whatnot. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've heard of it. It's an auction site, but it's live auctions. So unlike at eBay,
Mhm.
you know, you're live in front of a camera showing your items and seeing a live feed of comments and
Right.
people who are
Tuning
your
in.
show,
Mm.
tuning in, asking questions, you know, and you're engaging with them.
Right.
So it's really a community of people who
That's a bit vulnerable as well in terms of,
yes,
like visibility for yourself.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, you just not everybody feels comfortable being in front of a camera, and, you know, that's something you just kinda have to get used to if that's
Right.
the route you wanna go.
Mhm.
But I've seen gals on there selling, you know, jewelry and never show their face at all. All you
Okay.
really see are their hands,
Right.
and
And the item,
they
yeah.
talk in the item,
Right.
you know? So it really you don't have to, you know,
Put
rule that
yourself
out.
all the way out there, just put your part of yourself out there.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I like Whatnot, but you know, in addition to Whatnot, you know, I'm going to also be selling on Instagram.
which has
You
become
know,
a huge platform for both for live and like story sales and story feeds. And if you're in your regular feed or a post, you can sell that way. There's so many ways within one platform that you can do it. And I think there's also ways that if you're selling on Instagram or Facebook, it will take your post or whatever, or if you're posting in your story or on your feed, it will share that to the other platforms. So when you post in one platform, you're actually posting several other places.
right.
So that's added visibility, and it's at the touch of a button. You actually didn't have to do anything. All you have to do is activate that particular aspect of Instagram or Facebook or Depop or wherever you're selling to share on those other places.
Right. Right. And you know, I've done a lot of promoting for my business through Instagram posts,
Mhm.
through TikTok. So, you know, I made sure that my handle is the same across all
Right.
platforms. So it's
Yeah,
funny
and
how
it's your
you did.
brand, as you
It's my
referred to
brand.
earlier, so
Right.
consistency with your brand is really a key component of making that work in terms of getting followers, creating visibility, getting people to register or tune into your shows. And so what just and you're in the early stages, so how where are you at in terms of this journey in terms of, like, taking that leap? How long have you been at this?
So I heard about Whatnot, I think in late October, early November of last year. And I just sort of, you know, hung out, watched people's shows,
Learning,
learned, and then I finally said, I can do this, you know. So in December, I took the leap and I went for it. And it is, you do go through a learning curve, you know, because you do have to learn how to set your shipping settings
right.
and you know what people like, what they don't like, how what shows are more engaging that keep your audience and what makes people lose interest.
Mhm,
So you go through those little learning
mhm,
curves and it's just consistency. You know, I was kind of all over the place when I started, and then I said, you know, I'm just going to stay consistent. Every Thursday is 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time,
mhm.
so that way every Thursday prime time, my folks
Your regulars.
they know,
Yeah,
you know, and with that, I've got a lot of repeat business. You know, right now I have all 5-star ratings, which I'm very, very proud of,
that's
you
great.
know, and so yeah, it's been fun. One thing that I could say about Whatnot is I'm not holding on to my inventory for months and months waiting
Right.
for it to sell.
Which is where, like, a brick and mortar store, like and I think the departure from brick and mortar stores is really happening at an exponential speed for people that I know that have had brick and mortar in the past and they had it for, 10 plus years or whatever. There has been a dramatic change in terms of how people shop,
Yeah.
how they do different things, and it's all online, or also the nature of having a business, a brick and mortar shop has changed because there are more of the people that have these long-standing shops are pivoting and having pop-ups or having special events, and they actually have more of a reach, visibility, and visitation of customers during their special events than they would in a regular store.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use an example. A person that I know in Chicago that had a brick and mortar store forever. She has an amazing collection. She has incredible taste and always offers beautiful things. And she decided to close her store and have a kind of transitional space and have pop-ups. And she is experiencing a surge in her business more than ever that she has. She's also visible on different selling platforms, whether it be Etsy or her own website that she created in a very easy way. And she's just experienced a huge jump in her business.
Yeah. And if I owned a vintage brick and mortar shop and I'm sitting there waiting for customers to come in,
Right.
you know, I would run a live whatnot show.
Yeah. In the store.
In the store. And people do that all the time.
Yeah.
People go to the Goodwill bins, run a live show
Yeah.
right at the bins and
Mhm.
sell right there.
Right.
They check out with their own money. They're reimbursed by the customer and they're making a profit.
Right.
It's pretty
You just
crazy.
described a complete cyclical idea that I want to touch on. So I'm just going to take a quick moment and thank you so much to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority for sponsoring, for being our new 2020 or recurring 2026 sponsor for the Voices of Pueblo with such podcasts as 45 Degrees, State of Art, Bree on a Budget, and so many other great programs on the Voices of Pueblo podcast. So I want to thank CHFA again for supporting the Pueblo Star Journal and for the Voices of Pueblo. We are so indebted to you, and thank you so much for your support. So, Melissa, you bring up a really good point and kind of really tracks on our theme here is how these resources that we have access to, whether online, how easy they are to get to, and understanding our immediate resources in our community, which are our thrift stores, our secondhand stores, and how spending a very limited amount of money, aside from the fact of the things that you already have in your home or in your collection or in your curated hoard, as I like to call it,
Yeah.
the way that people are creating monetary or creating secondary income or side income or kind of that emergency income, for themselves. What are the types of things that you have found in your thrifting journey or understanding your thrift stores in your community? What are the things what are the takeaways or the things that you have learned from understanding how to thrift and how to use your secondhand resources?
Yeah. So there's so many different things that people like and they look for, when they're buying, in the reselling business.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're looking for a certain era or they're looking for a certain tag or name brand,
Mhm.
and
Designer brand, yeah.
designer
Mhm.
brands, things like that.
Mhm.
But the online market is so there's endless
Right.
possibilities.
Would you say
You
it's
know,
saturation or would you say it's selective? In terms of like, would you say that there are a saturated amount of things that people are looking in terms of like people's choices? Or do you think that the online community, like whether it be Whatnot, Depop, Etsy, do you think it allows a customer to have a curated choice or have to be able to streamline those choices?
Yes. you have actually both options, on Whatnot. I've seen people go on and sell their kids, clothes that don't fit them anymore, and they're just, hey,
Yeah.
they're sitting in my garage
Yeah.
in a bag,
Mhm.
and they'll do $1 start on it,
Yeah.
and sometimes they sell for $1, sometimes they'll sell for 10 or
Yeah.
20, depending on the item, and either
But that's
way,
$1 or $10 more than they had
right,
that of a pile of clothes that maybe they would have taken to Goodwill.
right, correct,
Instead, whether it's and it can be a range of what you're comfortable with. You can sell on Facebook
yeah,
Marketplace and have no visibility, if you do not feel comfortable in front of a camera or doing the whole video and preparation for that, you can sell it for Facebook Marketplace. You could take a picture with your phone. You can post it on your phone. You can, and that's a local, familiar way of selling it quickly. And then, or you can go on Depop, Whatnot, Etsy, whatever, depending on what it is, and sell those items. And, it can be from a short time to maybe a shorter extended period of
yeah.
time.
My son does that, he's the younger generation, he's 18 years old, and, he'll buy a piece of clothing, and he'll wear it a few times, and then he decides he wants something new, he'll turn around and put it on Depop and sell it, and, he's got some of his money back,
Yeah.
So I just think it's really interesting to see him transitioning into that where he's, hey, I can make money on the side. This is a good side hustle for
Yeah.
him.
I've seen mom do it, so I can do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have to get through. There's so many resources online that just teach you and tutorials. I mean,
Yeah.
I learned how to do my own plumbing on YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube. You
Yeah.
just, you
Absolutely.
just Google it, and with ChatGPT and Google,
Yeah. Gemini.
Gemini, you can learn. You don't have
How to
to
write a
get a
listing.
college
Yeah,
degree
right.
to do this stuff.
You don't have to spend a lot of time on it
No.
either. I mean, you could probably spend 10 minutes
Mhm.
and create a listing and do it very easily and do it properly and have the right wording and have all the details at very little to no effort of your own, and then you can just turn around and do 10 listings very easily.
Yeah.
It's very and that's the other thing is accessibility. So it's if, it's accessible for a teenager to maybe somebody that has extended knowledge of how to work online to maybe somebody that has not so much knowledge
Yeah.
of working online.
Yeah.
So we kind of touched this on this a little bit, but what kind of advice would you give to somebody that wants to do this? That wants to maybe like baby steps, they don't want to like go full force live and this is their full income. But say somebody has a pile of clothing that they're thinking about donating, but they're looking through it again and they're like, "Well, wait a minute. I bought this brand new and I've only worn it a few times and it still looks good. I think there's some more money in it. There's some more money there. There's some more use there. It still has a couple wears in it. So, what are kind of the steps that you would advise people in terms of how to get that online or how to sell it online?
Yeah. So, you choose a platform you like, what's most comfortable for you, whether it's eBay, Etsy, whatnot, Facebook Marketplace, Depop, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you just learn about it. You check out other people's shops or shows and see how they list things.
Look at their listings on
Just
Facebook
look at their
Market. Yeah.
listings, and, it's just find what's working, find what's successful, and copy that.
Mhm. Your level
Success follows
based on your
success,
right,
right?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
you find someone that you or a shop that you really admire that, seems like they're doing it right. They've
Mhm.
got a great flow of business, and just copy their business model.
Is that kind of what
know?
you were doing when you started and Whatnot in terms of watching
Yeah,
other sellers?
absolutely. I sat there, and there were some shows that I watched that I just, were really hard to watch, and you lose interest, you click on the next show, and,
Okay.
so you really just, you learn from, okay, this is working. I like that. I'm
Right.
going to use that.
This person's really
Mhm.
engaging, or this person has like in terms of how they're running their
Right.
show
Yeah.
so what's the sweet spot in terms of a like maybe a show length? Like one of the shows that you've done on Whatnot, what would you say that was successful for you? What would you say were the ingredients of that success?
Yeah, so the ingredients for one of my most successful shows was I had scheduled it far enough in advance so that it gained some traction, some bookmarks, some followers. People were waiting for the show. They had bookmarked it, which is kind of like an RSVP in
Okay.
that sense. And so, I had everything preloaded into my shop so people knew what they were expecting. So when they click on the show, they see the list of inventory that's going to be sold that day.
Okay.
They could bookmark those listings. But also, aside from promoting it on Instagram and TikTok,
Mhm.
and letting it gain a little momentum,
Mhm.
having lower starts. So,
Okay.
I started, I think, with like $5 starts,
Okay.
and a lot of my items were bid up to, $40, $50. There was a show when I I made some purses.
Yeah, and I
and
want to talk about that too because Melissa is an incredibly talented artist. She has a beautiful style. It's a fun, definitely retro style, but vivid, beautiful, so creative. And I keep trying to get her to commit to making some art pieces, but it's kind of like, I'm gonna feel it. I really feel this purse, so I'm really gonna paint it. So it's kind of like it's a moment.
It's an inspiration.
It's an inspirational
Absolutely.
moment.
I have to be inspired. I'm that kind of artist.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I mean, just coming soon. I hope
Yeah.
Melissa Maestas artistic creations. It's like, but so in terms of like the recipes for success for your show, in terms of how you did that lead in, how you captured interest, and how you captured viewers. What did you when you started out the show was and the show ended, was that kind of your expectation in terms of how it went, or was it a surprise, or was it unexpected and was like, "Oh, you know, this is how I should do it now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of all those things because, at the end of my show, I looked back at my numbers and didn't realize quite how many viewers had stopped in. So it was a lot more than what I had thought. And, I made a nice profit
Great.
of those items. And, it was just, okay, well, this is what worked. This was great. And, I've got to repeat this.
Note to self.
Note to
Yeah.
self. Yeah, but, it's consistency, it's showing up, it's being there and, not giving up because everybody has a bad show. Everybody
Right.
has a lot of bad shows. I mean,
Right.
there have been shows where I was on and I had one viewer aside from myself. And, it's just,
You have a captive audience at that
yeah,
moment.
that
Yeah.
so, you really have to sit back and say, okay, well, it was a bad show.
Right.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through it, and it doesn't mean to quit. You just keep going,
Right.
They showed up for me, so I'm going to show up for them,
Exactly. Exactly. And then
So,
maybe return the favor and tune into them. So in terms of what's going to be happening next for Honey House, what are the things that you want? Where do you want to take Honey House in terms of your online presence, in terms of the transformation of your business?
so Whatnot is fast. It's fast money. So sometimes I'm selling some really, really great items for really low prices. It's really a lot of resellers shop on Whatnot.
I see.
And so, in that it's not where I want to stay unless I'm able to really just kind of build on my audience a little bit more because I
Okay.
see some people just being really, really successful there.
Mhm.
But for right now, it's providing an income.
Okay.
And so
And that's
eventually
encouraging for people that
Mhm.
want to take that step of like maybe having be their side business or creating an additional income. That's encouraging to hear that, it's sustainability.
Yeah, I'm not sitting on my inventory,
Yeah, that's
waiting
that
for it to
either.
sell. It's selling immediately. All I have to worry about is shipping it and sending it out and then waiting, for them to deposit the money in my account,
Right.
So it usually takes about a week, but, that's how it works.
Mhm.
And, but eventually what I want to do is, so I have an extra space in the back of my home that was kind of like built an extended porch that I want to remodel and turn into
Like a carport
private.
type situation.
Uh,
Well,
it,
maybe not.
it's like kind of like I think they wanted to make it a den at some point.
Okay.
So it's
It's
just
enclosed.
it's an enclosed area. So what I want to do is turn that into a private boutique. So, when folks come into town, recently some gentlemen from England came and they were shopping for vintage Western wear and,
And they had a shop in the UK.
in the UK.
And so that's a very specialized request.
Yeah.
So that's something, but that's an audience you can cater to. That's a specialty. And so that is like another branch division of your business. And I think that's the most important things for people that want to have this side business is diversification.
Yes.
Diversifying your visibility, diversifying your audiences, the way in which you present their business. It's like you are multifaceted in terms of you are online, you have physical items that are online that you can present in shows or that you can do listings on Instagram or Facebook or Depop or whatever, depending on what the item is. You have a varied audience in terms of, I have a varied audience for my items that are from the 20s to the 60s, or I have newer items, or I have retro items. But then you also have a physical presence where people can visit your shop in person and have a in-person shopping experience, which is more intimate
Yeah.
and personalized.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's really what I want is, it to be very exclusive, by appointment only,
Mhm.
so the customer really feels like this is a special experience for me. Not everyone gets to shop here.
Mhm.
You can't just walk into Honey House and shop. You have to have an appointment. So it makes it very, very special in that.
They're walking into your home.
Right.
I mean, so
Right. And, additionally, to get my name out there and let people know that this exists, because that would have to be more for, a local,
or
the
people
local
passing
people,
through.
people
I mean,
passing
people
through.
could contact you and say, I'm coming from Kansas
Right.
or passing through and I have a shop or I have an interest or I'm buying for this person or, and they can make an appointment with you to shop because they know that maybe they've watched you on Whatnot or maybe they follow you on Instagram or Facebook or these different social platforms and they know what you have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll plan on setting up booths and things that,
Mhm.
things that are geared towards my aesthetic.
The
So,
community.
yeah,
Mhm.
we'll go to the 1940s ball and, if I can't set up a little booth there, I'll
Mhm.
hand out business cards.
Perfect.
The Hot Rod Rock and Rumble is another great opportunity for
Which
things
happens
like
in
that.
August.
Yes.
Yeah. At Pikes Peak International Raceway in
Yeah.
Fountain.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's in terms of this podcast and what I want people to know is it's not hard. It's easy.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. If a teenage kid can do it, you can
Right.
do it.
And the resources available to you are exponential. The the information that you have access to is unending.
Free. Free.
And it's free. You don't have to pay for this information, whether it's through Google or Gemini or I mean, if you have a question, I think and the other thing that there's kind of on the controversial end is that creative individuals, people have maybe an argument with artificial intelligence in that, it's taking away that personalized experience if you're creating it through AI. And I know that there have been and like there are some people that I know that there's a way that you can create an AI image of like let's say you have a vintage dress that you want to showcase or show or create a listing for and you can create an AI image wearing that garment.
Yeah, what's
So
really neat. So, and not everybody likes this, but I think that if you have a gorgeous piece, okay, I've seen it on a hanger and you look at it and you say that's
I can't visualize
I
that,
can't
yeah, of
visualize that, and me as a seller, I know what its value is.
course.
Why would I list it and not iron it and press it? Why would I?
That's a pet peeve.
Right?
So I'm going to say, as a vintage person, it's a pet peeve. If I'm buying or selling online, it's like you want the best thing to be presented to your public in its best way. So,
Yeah, it's an extra little step. It's
Yeah.
the attention to detail,
yeah, absolutely.
It's all the attention to detail. And I think that those attention to detail
People remember that.
is what people come back for. If
Exactly.
you read my listings, my reviews, it's all about the attention to detail, how things were wrapped, how they were presented when they
Mhm.
received it.
Feedback is the big 5 of a successful business is
Right.
your feedback.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, in terms of AI, what we were talking about is, if I have a beautiful piece, rather than putting it on a hanger, I now have the ability to have a model that I didn't have to pay for,
Right.
wear this item and show my audience what it would look like
Right.
in real life with a body that has curves,
Yeah. It's like, this is how it would look on a body. And then people can maybe visualize how it will look on their body, So it's absolutely, it's another resource that people can have. I mean, if you're going to go that route. So
if you in the past had a boutique
Mhm.
and you're a fashion designer and you're selling your clothing, you'd have to hire models
right.
to
Oh, yeah.
come
If you have a
and then you'd
fashion
have
show, if you have a premiere or something like that. Yeah.
and then you'd hire photographers and a studio. You don't need that anymore. You have
Right.
AI that you can create a model that wears
You're your own
clothing.
photographer.
You use
You're
I
Mhm.
use my iPhone to take
Yeah.
the photos. I
Mhm.
upload them. I forgot which photo app, but it removes the
Yeah.
background
Like
from the
Photo Room
Photo
or
room,
yeah.
yeah, and it removes the
Mhm.
background. You can use Gemini to create the listing description, and all you have to do is come up with the price and take the measurements, and
Right.
it's that easy.
In inside of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so what we're saying is there's really no excuse for you to not be able to do this. It's just about make the decision to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's, it's absolutely, and this is the best time of year. I mean, and I always say spring cleaning is the best time is because you're really reassessing your belongings. You're really reassessing, how do I want to live this year? How do I want to do it? And I always say that, the year reset is I use my birthday, in February. That's how my year starts. It's not January 1st. But it's really kind of like, this is how I want to live this year is I'm going to make these decisions to make my life better. I'm going to learn this information to inform myself and to make better decisions and to enrich myself or my family or my household or whatever it is. And that's really been what we want to convey in Bree on a Budget in this column in this podcast and really dispersing this information in because it's free. It's just about accessibility. It's about being able to have these things at your fingertips and in your arsenal, as I say, when you need it. And it's really easy now with all the things that are available to you to create these resources and create these possibly, side incomes or multiple streams of income to you, whether it's the few things that you have in the donate pile and you sell it on Facebook Marketplace to maybe you have an Etsy store, maybe you sell on eBay already and you want to take it to the next level. Or maybe you are somebody very much like Melissa where you're like, I am run down. I need a change of pace. I've been working in the corporate world and I'm comfortable. I have savings or I'm able to do this and I want to take that plunge and work for myself because I need to do something to fulfill myself and I'm good at it.
Right.
So I'm going to do this for myself and be successful. And so, that's all I wish for you is success for Melissa and for you to just keep growing,
Yeah.
and to just keep doing. I do want to plug a few things that are happening this month that are in this arena. Pueblo Pop-Up is a fantastic organization that's affiliated with the Pueblo Star Journal and Pueblo Pop-Up, which is another nonprofit organization. And they will be having their spring pop-up market at Water Tower Place on April 24th and 25th. It has handmade, homemade, vintage, artisanal market at Water Tower Place Friday evening and all day Saturday. And there'll be some fantastic vendors, cottage-made industry professionals, culinary arts individuals, vintage, all kinds of different things, found object, flea market find type of items that are all curated. It's a curated event. That will be, there's more information on Pueblo Pop-Up and on Pueblo Star Journal's websites about getting information about Pueblo Pop-Up Spring Market. And then also coming up next weekend is the Steel City Music Festival, which will also have a marketplace, and it's downtown Pueblo. And so those are definitely two local things that I think you should check out. And again, let's have Honey House's website, or how do they contact Honey House or see Honey House online?
Yeah, so the best way to access me is either through Instagram or TikTok. It's Honey House Vintage, and that's HONEY House, which is spelled HAUS.
House. Yeah.
Vintage.
House.
And that's my handle across Whatnot, Instagram, and TikTok.
Okay.
Also Facebook. I don't really use Facebook as much as I should. Eventually I will.
Yeah.
But, that would be the best way to contact me is just, type that in. You can send me a message either on Instagram, TikTok, even on Facebook. So Honey House Vintage. Also, you can send me an email, honeyhousevintageclothing@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And you have a show every Thursday night
At 6:30 p.m.
6:30 p.m.
Mountain Standard Time.
on Whatnot.
On Whatnot.
I want to thank you so much, Melissa. You're a great friend, and I've loved having you on the show today. You've been a plethora of information, a wealth of information, and you're doing it. You're doing what you want to do. You're living your dream of working for yourself and creating your income, and it's exciting. It can be done.
Yeah, thank
Can
you.
be done.
And one thing I would like your viewers or your listeners to know before we wrap up is anybody can do this, and it takes some time to build your business, but always remember, success comes through your reputation, the quality of items that you're presenting, and, there's so much freedom in being your own boss.
Absolutely.
If I wake up in the morning and I just don't feel like going to work, I don't have to call somebody and come up with an excuse. I just decide I don't want to work today,
Right.
and who doesn't love shopping? I shop for a living. That's what I do. So,
Dream job. That's all I'm going to say.
I call myself a personal shopper. That's
Right.
So that's one way to look at
Dream fulfillment.
it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much
Thank you
again,
for having me.
Melissa. Thank you, listeners. This has been Bree on a Budget for April edition. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Bree on a Budget, a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast, presented by the Pueblo Star Journal. This episode, Taking the Leap and Creating a Career in Vintage, was produced and narrated by Bree Papin. The Pueblo Star Journal thanks Colorado Housing and Finance Authority for their support of this podcast. To learn more and to support nonprofit local news in Pueblo, Colorado, visit pueblostarjournal.org. Thank you for listening.
Homeownership is possible with a trusted partner.
And it brings us a lot of joy to be able to say that this house is our own and that we've poured our hearts into making it our own.
Alyssa and Ryan are among the more than 155,000 people Chaffa has helped become homeowners since 1974. It starts with homebuyer education and connecting you with a statewide network of participating lenders. Get started at chfainfo.com/yourhome. Chaffa is an equal housing lender.